Making sense out of today's nonsense. Here's Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
You know me, I'm not a big fan of masks, but some people do not have an option. If you're a small business owner, you need to reopen, you need to protect your staff. If you're one of the vulnerable community, you need one. So let me help you out. Giving Masks is the answer, and it has that name for a reason. For every box of masks you purchase for yourself or your employees, we are giving 5 surgical masks to a working hero in need. How great is that? Go to givingmasks.com/GORKA. Purchase the face masks you need. Feel good about keeping your employees, your loved ones safe, and helping those who are still on the front line. Do it today. Givingmasks.com/GORKA. Well, look, it's all over. Everything has been solved. I have the announcement in my hand from theblaze.com. Lego will stop marketing police-themed toys in light of recent events. Well, there you go. If Lego is not going to sell police toys anymore, we will all be safe. Is that right, Andy McCarthy?
Good Lord.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Lego is banning.
I did hear it. Well, I'm glad to. Well, I will say I've been on the edge of my seat here to see what Lego would do.
Yeah, we need to know what the toy manufacturers are doing. You know who he is. You see him every day on Fox News giving us the best, the most reliable legal analysis. Former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney, author of a fabulous work, Ball of Collusion. Follow him right now at Andrew C. McCarthy. You've just written a piece that I've been thinking about for the last 9 days, or ever since the events occurred. It's about the charging in Minneapolis of the officers. It seems as if they're falling into the same old pattern and trend, Andy. This political pressure to overcharge, which then can result in a big mess when it gets to trial. So what did they do right? What did they do wrong? And what should have happened in Minneapolis?
Yeah, Seb, I can't really agree with you more about that, because I think when something like this happens, an event like Mr. Floyd being killed, what you have to do is let the prosecutors quietly do their work, tune out the noise.
Yeah.
A trial is not a morality play. Prosecutors actually have to prove stuff, and you don't want to overcharge the case.
Can you just say that again? That is one of the most profound sentences. What did you just say? It's not a morality play. That was fabulous.
The trial is not a morality play. You have to prove stuff. And, you know, there's good and bad in that. I've noted many times that probably in the 1990s, the best history and this is not the way you'd want to make history, but it just turns out this way. The best history that we had of how jihadist terrorism, at least Sunni jihadist terrorism, worked and how it began its onslaught against the United States was what we were able to prove in our trial against the blind sheikh.
Yes.
And that was because we had a judge who allowed us to do our jobs, which meant he enforced federal law and let us get our evidence in. And we were permitted the luxury, Seb, in the mid-1990s that I don't know that you'd get anymore, which is whatever politically correct thing they were saying, you know, in Washington, at the White House, the steps of the courthouse, wherever, in the four corners of the courtroom, we were allowed to prove what happened and why. And that's because we were left alone to do our jobs and we weren't expected to react to a mob. And I think what you're seeing now is the opposite of that.
Well, this leads me to my second question. We're talking to Andy McCarthy, Andrew C. McCarthy on Twitter, author of Ball of Collusion. Really, guys, you need to read it. Given what's happened in the last 10 days, and look, the guy shouldn't have died. He should be alive today. George Floyd should be alive. And the 3 officers, I don't think, should have stood there watching. I don't know what the state crime is that they committed, but that shouldn't have occurred. But Andy, can any of those 4 officers, given the last 10 days and the coverage, have a reasonable expectation of a fair, unbiased trial?
Well, certainly not if the conditions are anything remotely like they are now. The expectation when something like this happens, that's always a fair question to ask whenever something horrific happens. And generally speaking, you know, what you do is you postpone the trial long enough that the hot feeling has passed, and you do a very thoroughgoing interview of all the prospective jurors, and you try to get, you don't want people who don't know anything about the case, because the weirdest people are the people who are living under a rock, right? So you don't expect to get people
right.
who are completely detached from reality, but you want fair people who can tune out the noise and decide the case on the basis of the facts. And usually you can find that. But the thing I think is bad now is that we understood that. We've always understood that as a value. And now I think we're transforming from a truth society to a narrative society.
Yes.
And the issue is whether the story comes out the way that the people who are running the institutions of opinion think that it should come out, rather than the way that the facts and the evidence may indicate that it should come out, which could be a very different thing.
Now, I'm going to ask you the $64,000 question. We've only got a minute left, but I have to do it because, you know, I have great respect for you and your experience, and it's really a yes-no question. In your experience, having been there on the front lines, in the courts, prosecuting the worst criminals in America, working with law enforcement, do we have a systematic race issue in the police across America, or is it bad apples here and there? What is your personal experience, Andy McCarthy?
It's like anything else. It's bad apples here and there, which you find in all aspects of life. But the thing about this is, if anybody actually used common sense in thinking about this for 5 seconds rather than just, you know, repeating the tropes that they hear, who runs the court system and the criminal justice system in the United States? Lawyers, judges, the most progressive, most left-wing people in virtually any institution in America other than the academy. And the thought that they would preside over something, that they would allow their institution to be systematically racist, is preposterous. It's laughable.
That's
remarkable to me.
It's such a powerful observation. That's why he's Andy McCarthy. How can there be systematic racism if these institutions are run by some of the most progressive professionals in America? Stop! It's insanity. Let's have some common sense. Get your common sense. Get some of your common sense. You need multiple sources from Andy McCarthy, Andrew C. McCarthy. God bless you, on Twitter, and check out his book, Ball of Collusion. I'm Sebastian Gorka. Your call's next here on America First.